Hey there, lady. My name is Molly Conley, and I'm devoted to helping women reinvent their love lives, whether that's after divorce, dating on and off the apps, or in their committed relationship. Why? Because I've been there. I'm a former college athlete who filed for divorce 3 years into marriage, swam in the online dating pool into my late 30s, and now I am married to the man of my spreadsheet dreams who I met 4 months before the world shut down. As a dating and relationship coach, I help my clients shift the focus from being obsessed with finding Mr. Right to shifting to herself as Miss Right Now. We build a foundation filled with clarity, connection, and confidence, knowing she is worth waiting for. Each week on the podcast, I'll bring you love life insights and savvy guests, where you will receive the courage to release programmed limiting beliefs. Discover patterns and behaviors restricting you from finding and attracting quality men, and ways to choose yourself first so you can build a foundation for a healthy relationship with yourself and a partner. Hey there, lady. I'm excited to bring another couch conversation with Brad to the podcast.
Hi, hope you guys are enjoying these.
Yeah, and I'm curious, are you actually liking these episodes? Not to put you on the spot or anything. It's not like you're getting out of this one anyways.
No, it's been good. No, I definitely enjoy it. I don't mind sharing my thoughts about what you want these ladies to know.
Well, I'm good. I'm glad to hear that because number one, I appreciate you joining me and spending the time together, as well as sharing your experiences and insights. Because I know that I asked my ladies on Instagram, and this was something that they'd like. I don't think they knew that you were going to be the person that was to give men perspective and insight, but it's the easiest way for me to do that is to bring you on.
Yeah.
So by the way, now that I mentioned that, if you aren't already, go to Instagram and follow me at Reinventing the Arena. Okay, so today's episode honestly makes me pretty excited. If this is your first time here, I'm a high achiever, and one of my favorite activities is goal setting. Yet, one thing that people leave out of goal setting process is having an accountability partner to keep you going when times get tough, to motivate you and remind you why you started this goal in the first place. If you are or were an athlete, you definitely could see this with, your coach, teammates, and possibly even your family members. But one area that is often overlooked to help you is your current partner or future partner. He can also become that supportive accountability partner that you need to help achieve your goals. So today we're going to share experiences from our relationship and ways for you to do this with yours. So Brad, why don't we talk about your recent goal and, you training for your triathlon that you recently had and actually, competed in?
Yeah, so this basically goes back to 2020. So when I met Molly, she was in the fall of 2019. She was coming off Masters Swimming Nationals and preparing to return to the Spring Nationals in spring of 2020. And I never really met anybody doing anything like that. She was, obviously in her late 30s and competing at a high level in this Masters, USA Masters swimming. And I thought that was really interesting. And so on our first New Year's Day together, she had this plan that she was going to go do this swim event, this tradition that she had with her
With
swim
my
club.
team.
Yeah, your team. Maybe you can tell a little bit about that first.
Yeah. So my master's team, where my college coach was the head coach for that, we did this event. One of our board president put it on, where we did 100 100s the day after New Year's Eve, and it would start like at 8:00 and maybe we'd run till midnight. But we could also do like 175s or 150s. And so once you figured out what event you wanted to be, or what distance you wanted to swim, you also had to figure out what interval you're going to be on. And we would take a break halfway through. The first year I did it, I was so exhausted afterwards that I literally took a bath and laid in it for about an hour before really getting up and moving. And so the year we met each other in 2019, I had decided to only do half. But then that was because also like all the delicious goodies to have afterwards to watch football, like game day food.
Yeah,
So
we had a nice week planned of watching football.
Yeah. And so that was like my big accomplishment for the week. So go ahead. Keep
so
talking.
I knew she was going to go do this big swim event. And I'm like, okay, well, that morning. So, we didn't stay up super late or, get really drunk or anything on New Year's Eve. I don't think that night, so you can go do your thing. So I'm like, well, I felt like doing something I had never done before. So that her doing that made me feel like doing something like that. So I went upstairs to our gym and I decided I'm going to run 3 miles or 3.1 miles, a 5K, because I've never run a 5K before in my life. I've always been into, health and fitness and primarily lifting, and some cardio. I enjoyed cycling, but I was never much of a runner, and I'd never run more than really 2 miles at a time in my entire life. So never run a 5K.
But you also played ultimate, so
yeah, I did play ultimate frisbee. So I ran a lot, sprinting and things like that.
But you also ran, or you did football in high school. Like,
yeah.
I just want to say, like, it's not like you were never an athlete.
Correct. Yeah. So I've been an athlete. I've been athletic, but I was never, not much of a distance runner. And to me, 5K is kind of at that time was kind of a distance. So yeah. I'm like, I'm gonna go run a 5K on the treadmill at whatever pace I can do it, because I haven't done that before. So I got up there and I finished it. I didn't walk. I didn't stop. I didn't slow down. And it took me about 33 minutes. And now, incidentally, I can do it in under 22 minutes. But after I did that, I was like, that was kind of the first spark that got me on the road to triathlon. I always enjoyed swimming as an exercise. When I belonged to a gym that had one, but it had been several years since I belonged to a gym that had a pool. So I hadn't swam in several years by the time we were dating. And so when we moved to St. Louis, we found an apartment complex that had an indoor lap pool, which is extremely rare. I think it's one of like 2 or 3 in the entire city. It's an old complex that had this pretty nice pool. So that, seemed like a logical choice, and we liked a lot of other things about it. So since we moved here and we had that pool and Molly was swimming, I decided I would get back into swimming for exercise too. And so, of course, she started giving me some basic instruction, and I found out that I'd been doing it all wrong anyway. Probably going to ruin my shoulders and joints and everything. So
I wouldn't say that you were doing it all wrong. There was things that I'm like, we could try.
Yeah, I mean, I would never. Well, and even when I would swim at the gym back when I was swimming, I'd swim like 10 laps, and that was my swim workout. Like, I was done. Like, I was winded after 2, and then after 10, I'm like, okay, that was a good workout. It was like 10-15 minutes or something of swimming. So
and now you can swim about an hour.
Yeah, I've never been a distance swimmer. So yeah, that was I did probably like 300-400 yards, and now I can do 3,000 in a workout. But anyway, so I got into swimming, and then I was already into cycling, and I kind of started running a little bit more, and I was like, well, I wonder. It made me start researching triathlons just to see like what that might be like. Is that something I could ever approach about doing? Because I felt like doing something new and setting a goal for something. So I started researching triathlon, and I actually found out they had, a thing called a sprint distance triathlon, which is like half the distances of an Olympic triathlon. So the sprint distance is just a half-mile swim, a 12-mile bike, and a 3-mile run. And that sounded, really doable to me. So I thought I could do that. So I signed up for one in December of 2021, with the race being in May of 2022. So I decided to do this just, on my own, and found what I could online. I found a 12-week training program online that looked like I could follow. There's all kinds of instructional videos about how to do, all this information for beginning triathletes. So like I downloaded all these things and I read all this information.
Instagram reels now.
Yeah, lots of Instagram reels and videos. And I committed, I really committed to taking this seriously. And being with somebody like Molly, who's competed in an individual sport like swimming, her entire life, she knows what it takes to do something like this, at least, to commit to this type of a goal. It was so helpful, because I really can't imagine being able to follow through with this type of goal. Honestly, in my previous relationship, that would never have happened. Molly was encouraging and instructive and understanding, and helped so much with my swimming. I just wouldn't be able to do it without her. So it was really cool to have her at the races. Especially our first race was such a really cool adventure from the beginning, from getting up at 3 a.m. and she documented it with photos and to cheer me on. I could hear her while I was coming in from the swim, and then when I was finishing on the run. And that was really cool. Even just her cheering, but like all the people cheering, honestly. I'd never done anything like this. So when I was coming down to the finish line from the run and almost done, I mean, there's people yelling and cheering and clapping. They're blowing horns and cowbells. There's cowbells. Yeah. There was somebody with a trombone just making noise. And it was really cool. Like, everybody was cheering everybody on. So that was so much fun. and so I got done, and I really felt that I'd given pretty much my best effort at that time, and I was pretty worn out and pretty happy. And so I remember we went to check the results just to see what my time was, and I was like, oh, I got second place in my age group. There's 8 people in my age group, which was 45 to 49, and I was like, wow, that was a really unexpected surprise. So I said, well, we're staying for the awards ceremony because I've never got to stand on a podium before. And I got to stand on a podium and get a medal. And that was like a really, really cool. So that got me kind of probably the start of what might be somewhat of an addiction. So yeah, that was kind of how I got into it.
Well, what I really loved was the fact of like, that's what you got last year. And then this year you also got second, but you dropped 14 minutes. And if anyone knows being a swimmer, I literally always catch myself being 14 seconds because that seems like a lot of time.
Yeah.
But 14 minutes in a triathlon is quite a bit. So
so that race was just last weekend. And the first year I did it in an hour and 31 minutes. And this past week I did it in an hour and 17 minutes. And that included 2 minutes off my previous swim time. So that was probably the best improvement. Biking, I made some biking changes to my setup, and that helped quite a bit.
And your transition times were really quick.
My transition times were a lot faster this year. So yes, I was very pleased with how that ended up. So it was again a lot of fun. Great day, great weather.
Yeah. I love
good post race brunch.
Yes. That's always like another fun win.
Yes.
Which we'll actually bring into that in a minute. But it's always fun supporting you because, first of all, it's so new in a sense for you to do something like this. And then you are so committed to the point where it's like, I mean, I'm going to have to cheer you on. I'm surprised. Like if you were swimming all day or if I could be around you all day, I'd probably lose my voice. So
I believe that.
Past swimmers, teammates of mine know that is like a thing. Every weekend in college, I'd lose my voice cheering on my friends. So it's always fun to do that. So part of this, it's always so fun supporting another person, but it's really fun and actually pretty helpful for your relationship to support your partner. So I have 8 steps so that you can either, support your partner, or you can learn how to communicate how you need support and stuff like that in your goals. So number 1, the first step is knowing their why. So it's important to get to know why this goal is important to your partner. And to be honest, this can be difficult to figure out. So for example, when I was returning to master swimming, I thought I was doing it because I missed the water. Then I thought it was because I wanted to compete. But the more I asked myself, why do I get up at 4:45 to jump in a cold pool at 5:30 in the morning? I had a list full of whys. My teammate, my coach, my desire to feel fast, my desire to feel strong in the water, and, like my curiosity around my ability to swim well 13 years after college competition. But most of all, to prove to myself that I could still push myself to succeed, to have something that was all mine, that wasn't contingent on a boss, a family member, or a partner at that time. So being able to communicate your why to your partner is extremely important, as it's going to translate your passions for the goal. It will also help you develop a deeper sense of emotional connection, and you'll be motivated to help your partner achieve what they're hoping to accomplish.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like you kind of mentioned before, I grew up, from a kid playing team sports, baseball and soccer and basketball when I was a kid, and then high school, football, and even ultimate, into college. And I'd never done, when I started looking into this, I realized, I'd never done an individual, timed, competition,
Mm-hmm.
like you kind of were,
Always.
your whole life have done that. And so that was part of my why is just, can I push myself to do something like this? I think, initially when I signed up, it's like, okay, my goal is to finish in 2 hours. But then after a little bit of training, I quickly realized, okay, well, I can do a lot better than that. And so I think that motivated me. I wasn't trying to podium. I didn't think at all, but it motivated me to like, okay, well, I think I can get a certain time, maybe an hour and 45 minutes. I think that's doable. And so, I've always been pretty self-motivated. So I think that helped too. But I think it was just a desire to do something completely individual, and just to see if I could do it.
Yeah. And I remember you communicating that, and definitely now that you bring it up, I remember you saying, oh, I just want to do 2 hours. I'm like, oh, I bet you could do way faster. So yeah, of course that happened. Okay. So number 2, ask where they want to be supported and how. So once you have the why, you need to ask your partner about support? Does this look like motivational quotes on Post-it notes throughout the house? Does this look like a habit tracker set up in the kitchen for both of you to see every day? Is this making sure you're getting out of bed with your partner at 4:45 in the morning? So everyone's idea of support is so different. So asking helps develop an understanding of what they want and what they don't want. Plus, this can help establish a new communication skills for other moments that you're going through in life.
I think this was pretty easy for us because, and we kind of alluded to this, I think in our previous podcast, is we always both got up early to work out.
Yeah, it was actually a must for me.
Right. And so even just knowing you were going to get up to work out, and so was I, like that was helpful. I mean, I can't imagine, how, if you didn't get up at 4:45, how else would you support me? Because, that's a huge thing.
I will
just
tell
to
you,
get out of bed at the same time and go to the gym together.
Oh yeah. Like ex-boyfriends wouldn't want me to go swim. And so there's many years that I wanted to swim masters, but if we were in a committed relationship when we lived together, like there was no way I was going to be able to do it because they didn't want me to get up at that time. Because then they would be up for that time frame. They couldn't go back to sleep.
Yeah.
So it was like a must on my qualities list and characteristics list that someone who liked to work out in the mornings. I know that sounds crazy, but that's what works for us. So
yeah, no, and that's huge. And then, I asked you for swimming coaching and tips.
Yeah.
Most of the time, and that was very helpful. And so I think that step kind of came easy to us, and me is you kind of already knew how to support somebody doing that way because you knew what support you would want,
right?
If you've thought about that.
Yeah. So like step number three is like ask how they want you to hold you accountable if they fall off the wagon. And I'm going to be brutally honest. This was always difficult for me. I would put way too many items on my priority list, and sometimes working out or eating healthy would fall off of it. And I had to ask Brad to try a different approach where I wouldn't necessarily fall into my own fears and feelings around shame and guilt or falling off the wagon, not working out or not eating healthy. So in order to communicate this with my partner, like with your partner, first reflect back to a situation or event where someone helped hold you accountable, where you felt supported, even though you didn't stay on track. Explain the key points and even share the example maybe with your partner. Because if you can't think of one race, you can also recall the time where you supported someone else, which is kind of alluding exactly to what you mentioned recently, just in that one moment, because I knew how I like to be supported. So it was really easy to do that with you. But if for some reason you are the partner wanting to hold the person accountable, double check that you have it right. This is huge. Ask them for a second time by saying something like, just to be clear, you want me to do blank. Or I want to make sure that I have this right so I can support you to the fullest. So you want me to blank. Do you have any thoughts on that, honey?
I mean, honestly, I felt I did pretty well myself. Like, I don't think I fell off the wagon. No, I committed I didn't miss a workout. I was pretty much trained 6 days a week, rest day.
You didn't even miss workouts when you had to travel for work either.
Yeah,
you just would move things around.
Yes. I mean, that was a big commitment is making sure because I was traveling quite a bit, even that last week leading up to the race.
Yeah.
I always made sure I got some training in, never woke up and said, oh, I'm not going to do it today. But had I had those days or had I had those feelings, I would have asked you to make sure you do something to not let me do that. So that would have definitely been important.
Well, I'm going to flip something though.
Okay.
So athletes, just to be honest, have this addiction to always having to show up where if you get into this point of not listening to your body though, that can be also really unhealthy. Sure. You are really good at taking care of your body and taking care of your physical, emotional, mental self. But there are people that think that, okay, well, I only got 3 hours of sleep, but I can't miss my workout. And it's no, actually sleep is way more important than your workout. So I just wanted to put that in here because I'm also a person where I have anxiety and sometimes I can't fall asleep until 1:00 because my mind just starts going about all the things I could be doing or couldn't get accomplished. So then when I wake up at 4:00 or 4:30, I'm I can't function. Yeah. In the past, I would have pushed myself and that would just lead to burnout as well as honestly getting sick. So just wanted to throw that in there because you are obviously really good at doing that, but there's people like myself that aren't that great at times.
I was pretty lucky for the 12 weeks leading up to that. I didn't have any circumstances that really had a late night or travel. Like I said, travel didn't interfere with it. So I was pretty lucky that nothing really happened like that. But
Yeah. Okay. So step number 4, compassion goes a long way. So we're going to have wins and we're going to have failures, or what I like to sometimes say, redirections or maybe setbacks. But you will be prepared for those challenges because you've already listened and applied the first 3 steps. What is wonderful about this step is applying your unique sense of compassion to truly help your partner learn from these moments while helping them, back up gently in the way that inspires them to keep going. Since Brad is more analytical and a thinker, I'm more matter of fact in this step. I remind you how far you've come or how much you've been doing when you don't think a workout went well or something to that effect.
Yeah, I mean, and that was definitely helpful because there's been plenty of times where I get out of the pool and be like, oh my God, that sucked. My stroke felt horrible. Like I felt good last week and now I can't swim and everything was out of whack, and I felt slow. And so yeah, even just that little bit of encouragement, like think about where I was a year ago and how long it took me to swim, get from 1,000 yards to 1,500 to 2,000 and 2,500. And so, yeah, you did that very well. And so that was helpful. Just remind me of what I have done and what I know I can do. Exactly. And I'm going to have a bad day in the pool, and everybody does. And sometimes things don't come together in a workout, but I finish the workout and go to the next one.
So step number 5 is working on our mindsets. And I made sure to say that plural because when both of you are in a similar mindset, the energy is going to be contagious. If you've ever been an athlete, like I've mentioned this before, you know the feeling, that adrenaline rush of wanting to accomplish something together as a team. But when you have 1 or 2 teammates who are those negative Nancy's, it can pull the whole energy level down, affecting the mindset of the team. You two are a team. And you've heard me say this before, teamwork makes the dream work. And I'm not saying, to play around with toxic positivity, but reminding yourself and your partner of how much you've accomplished and the challenges you've overcome can help pivot that mindset back to the path towards your goals together.
Yeah. And I think we both did pretty good on this. Again, I had times where I felt I wasn't, doing as well as I should be because I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, and I was really trying to do what you were telling me in the pool, and I knew that sometimes I wasn't doing it. But I think we both did really well with mindsets during my training and throughout the race.
Yeah, and you're a lot, like you mentioned, you're a perfectionist. You're a lot harder on yourself than you need to be.
Yeah.
But this is also the awesome part of there's always room for improvement in certain areas, and it gives you hope then even for next year. Think of how we have a full year to.
Yeah. Oh, I have.
So you have a list of things that you want me to work with you. Okay.
Oh, for sure.
Okay. So then that leads into step number 6, actually, is creating a plan around the final result, especially if it's an event. So here you're going to want to dig into the questions 1 and 3 again to solidify their why, but with an end goal. You want to know how you can support them along the way with specific milestones. So going back to my example of master swimming, I knew 3 or 4 swim meets that I'd want to compete in prior to nationals, over a course of 5 or 6 months, because there's really not that many, to be honest. And I also knew at times I'd want to go in each event that I would be competing. So I had a specific monthly, weekly, and daily goals to help hold myself accountable. Like I said, I love setting goals, and I'm an achiever. So this makes a lot of sense for some people if you can relate. But this was also because I didn't date anyone within 10 weeks of going to nationals, to be honest. And it was because I really wanted to focus on those goals, and previous relationships became a distraction. Yet I'll probably create similar milestones with goals like this to help me reach the goals I will set for myself for nationals next year. And I will have to communicate what these are to Brad, as well as which ones he can actually help hold me accountable to.
Yeah. And I definitely was looking forward to training together this past year, even though that 2022, they canceled nationals, I know.
2022 wasn't canceled. 2022, we had something come up that I couldn't go,
true.
Or they redid. No, that's right. They moved spring nationals to actually the week of our wedding.
Yeah.
Or that was 2021. I don't know. There's someone, I can't remember what the reason was.
But I look forward to when we are in Like this next year, we're planning on
Indianapolis. It's only 4 hours away. It's my favorite pool. I'm so excited.
And we'll be kind of training to fall through the winter through the spring. We'll be in training together. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Yeah, it will be. We could do a follow-up.
Yeah.
All right. So number 7, celebrate those small wins. Honestly, I say this to my clients all the time, and celebrating is huge, even for the littlest things. It can be everything from working out finally to 5 times a week, or getting the courage to ask your boss for a raise. Celebrating your small victories helps teach your body, your subconscious, that this new and possibly scary step actually has a reward tied to it. And over time, you won't be scared or nervous or intimidated or whatever emotion it is. Instead, it will feel normal because now you've expanded your comfort zone and rewarded yourself along the way. Explaining this to your partner as a reminder will allow you to build a new level of trust within your relationship. One person is celebrating you, no matter how big or small, and they remind you the next step is so much closer than before. So it's literally a win-win.
Yeah, I mean, I think you did a great job with that. And I mean, kind of what comes to mind is when my first year of training, the first time I said, okay, I'm going to do all my race distances, in a morning, and I finished them. I never swam that far continuously, and I never biked that far continuously and run. And I did that, and like that was definitely an accomplishment. Like, okay, now I know I can physically do it.
Mm-hmm.
Now I can celebrate that and try to decrease those times. And so I thought that kind of comes to mind.
Yeah, it's super important. And step number 8 is leading into the brunch is celebrating together. So you might think this is different from step 7, but it's not. Here you're having an intentional celebration of how far you have come together as a team or even individually towards the goal, no matter the end result. We can't control everything, like who else is competing in your triathlon or who else is interviewing for your dream job, but we can celebrate how supporting one another has created a new depth to the relationship, and we're stronger than ever before.
Yeah, so I think we set, we decided, okay, after the race, the first race, we're gonna go have brunch.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that was honestly like a reward I was looking forward to. I stopped drinking 2 months before the race, and I had been very, very disciplined with my diet. And I was like, okay, just looking forward to that celebration afterwards. And, so the bonus was I got second, and then we had a great brunch at a place we hadn't been to before. So that was kind of cool too. And that was it was a really fun brunch because, I was like wearing my medal, and you were taking pictures and, celebrating together. So like, we created a really nice memory that whole day and that celebration. So I actually kind of made a day of it, really. We did the brunch, then we came home and celebrated some more. And then we decided we
wanted
kind of
burgers,
a celebration dinner,
yes,
and dessert. And so, I kind of rolled into a really, really nice, day of celebrating, which is really cool.
We really like food.
Yes.
We like to celebrate.
That's the way
food.
I would like to celebrate. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to add to these steps at all? Or do you think there's a 9th step?
I think you really laid it out really nicely, and we can really see how all those steps worked into, what you did for me in the whole process I went through, over this last 2 years, getting into training for these races. So I wouldn't have even thought about really doing it unless you were kind of who you are, and knowing that knowing you would support me at least, even if you weren't swimming, like knowing your personality, knowing who you are, I knew you'd support me if I set this goal.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that you have your background, I knew that would really help me. And again, like just knowing that I can get up at 4:45 and go work out, and you're going to support that. And I know I can, set these goals and take this time for myself to try to achieve this. And you would, not only support me, but also help me as far as coaching and swimming, and have plenty of tips like that. I mean, invaluable. Like it was so helpful to know you're going to be there, and then along the way you were. And so, I think this is some really good steps and lessons for people that are looking to find ways. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that have significant others that are doing something they might not even understand, or why the heck are you doing that, or why would you want to run that far or do this thing or whatever,
or even maybe switching a career or wanting to move across the country. Like, doesn't have to be workout wise,
exactly.
But just like a completely different thing. So
these steps can apply to a lot of different things, not just obviously athletic events.
anything that, you have a passion towards, that you want to set a goal and have your partner help hold you accountable and support you. So,
Exactly.
well, babe, thanks for being here. I really love having you on here, and
You're
it's so
welcome. That was
fun.
fun.
Okay, so ladies, listen in. Next week, Tuesday, I have the co founders of Smitten Project joining me to talk all about how they're helping singles make real connections with their programs designed to help you make and maintain real relationships with yourself and those you love. All right, ladies, until next time. Have vacation on your mind? Yeah, me too. Catching some rays while having a little R&R is what I'm talking about. Some summer fun sounds great as long as it doesn't include the side effects from boozy beverages. The headaches, the dehydration, the horrible night's sleep, the hangover, and whatever else may come your way. Instead, try one of my favorite alcohol replacements called Moment. It's a botanical water, either still or sparkling, with no artificial flavors, no caffeine, and no added sugar. Instead, they have refreshing fruit flavors, healthy botanicals, and adaptogens. Some of my favorite flavors include blueberry ginger, spiced mango, and blood orange. Plus, I find them refreshing while hanging out poolside, by the beach, or lounging at the lake. If you want to give them a try, use my promo code Reinventing the Arena at checkout for 15% off. The link is in the show notes.